people don't know that Carolina wasn't really recruiting me in the beginning. They was off me, and I had every college recruiting me except for Carolina. So when I found that out my junior year, and I was mad. I was mad at my coach who told me that. He was telling me like, yeah, Carolina don't want to recruit you because you got thrown out of the game against Hargrave. And I had got 2 technicals for dunking, slapping the backboard. And so they said they didn't like that. And I was upset. So I spent that whole year killing. We didn't win the championship, but we made the playoffs. And then I got like player of the year. And then that summer going in, my whole thing was about getting Carolina to recruit me. And so once I recruited them, it was like, Coach Doherty had to literally, foster the fact that I was the best recruit that he had based on the guys he had currently. There was an 8-20 season. Carolina 8-20 season, 2001.
That's wild.
And so you look back and you say, dang, like it was really serious for Carolina back then. So Matt Doherty was calling my phone while I was in school, bro. He was literally calling my phone almost every day, asking me how I'm doing and if I talk to these guys and if I could come down now and say the program and, all of this stuff. So once I started recruiting guys like Sean May, who I knew was going to be an Avenger for me, and then other guys fell into place like Damian Grant, David Noel, Rayshawn Terry, Byron Sanders, all these guys fell into places because they was just asking me what guys to approve of. And I approved of all them guys, 9 of them, and went out and recruited Rayshawn Terry. And so when it came down to our championship team, those guys don't even know that that's how it came. Coach Wojcik and Coach Quarterbaum and all those guys came to me asking my opinion on who we should pick. Even Wes Miller. Wes Miller don't come to Carolina if it ain't for me.
What about Raymond Felton?
Raymond was the only guy that was there. He got there before I did, but he committed just based on the fact that Carolina was trash. And he knew that was a place he could go and just kill because he was averaging like 45 in high school in South Carolina. And so he was a Carolina guy. He was close by, and he was like ranked at like top 3 point guards. And so it was an easy thing for him to just go ahead and commit. So he committed before all of us. But once I committed, it solidified Carolina to be, like a destination spot.
I just think it's so interesting how the picture isn't always as nice as people seem, you think, or how it's viewed. When you look at it from a fan's perspective, we think championship team, everything's great. Everything's A1. Y'all made it. It's going to be a happy ending. But, hearing from you and your story, like that's not always the case. Hardly ever for most teams, I just think that's very interesting, on how we view the game from the outside versus what's really going on behind the scenes and how things are really being done. And it's not all nice. It's not sweet. It's a very dark and cruel game that, players and coaches have to play with each other, so I just thought I wanted to make it.
It's based on the perspective too, though, bro. You got to look at who it's coming from because the stories are going to like there could be 80% of the players that had stupendous experiences, no flaws in it. Like everything was bells and whistles, right? But then it's those 2 guys that had rough experiences. Like everything was bumps on the roads, roadblocks, haters over here, haters over there. Like everything is a challenge. Like those perspectives, even if the road is to the championship and everybody's cheering all the way, those 2 perspectives are still going to be so different to the point where when you hear this story over here of the good stuff and how it was always good, it was always smiles, like Mark Madsen, you know what I'm saying? Like Mad Dog. Like it's always good, it's always smiling. But then it's this guy who's the star player who you would think would have this story. He got the other story. It's like, man, I'm dealing with haters on this side, my mom, them, my dad, them, my girlfriend, man, my teammates, the coach calling me every day. I don't know what to do with this. And he's still out here performing at a high level. Don't tell nobody nothing.
Do you still hold on to your accomplishments, your Tar Heel accomplishments, man? Like, do you still wear that coat, man, that ring, that championship? I mean, do they still hold a lot of value to you, or you like, nah, that's done. I'm not looking back.
Nah, man, I never held accomplishments to a high standard at all. You know what I'm saying? Like those things were for my mom and them, and even them, they know how I feel about that stuff because I never did it for that. I did it to be the best. I wanted to be considered the best to ever do it, the greatest ever. So I could throw a championship ring away. I can get rid of certain things. You know what I'm saying? I can trade jerseys and give them away, and none of that stuff, you know what I'm saying, matter to me. You know, because I know what I did and the people know. So the moment I'm forgotten is the moment I'm forgotten. I don't need no memorabilia to try to remember me. If you don't remember what I did when I played, I ain't do enough.
That's a tough position to have. I gotta tell, based off that story you just talked about, the whole recruiting thing, you won a hell of a GM. Because that team was very well put together as far as, I mean, I'm watching the game the other day. I mean, it was I don't know how many college basketball teams in the last 20 years had a great point guard, had a great scorer, and a great big man all on one team. Then you got a bunch of wing defenders who was interchangeable between the 3 and the 4. Long defender Jackie Man is what, 6'6", long wingspan. Jawad, you had both Williams. I mean, Marvin and Jawad, both 6'8", 6'9", can guard anybody on the floor. Y'all could switch with anybody. Like, y'all just filled in roles. So I mean, the fact that you was able to piece that together, I mean, look,
Let's talk
LeBron need
basketball.
to take notes.
Let's talk basketball then. Look, so listen, we just talk basketball here. So look, this is from a basketball perspective why how you break that down makes so much sense. So when we was going into our third year, which is the championship year, the year you talking about with Marvin and Quentin was Coach Williams' first recruits that he recruited, right? And so the year before that was Rashad Terry. And Rashad was a big recruit because he was another big wing. He was like our LeBron. He could do everything, could shoot, defend, run, jump, dunk, everything we needed to do. So between him and David Noel and Jackie, we had defenders, athletic, wing, runner, dunkers, everything. You know what I'm saying? We can trap, we can full court press, we could do zone, we could do everything we wanted to with our line, especially with me and Raymond. Me and Raymond was interchangeable with everything. And with Dave, then Melvin was our shooter, but Melvin was athletic too. He wasn't no slouch. And so it allowed us to just be interchangeable throughout there. So then when we add Marvin, which is like a Jawad with more athleticism, it was easy for us to just be able to be athletic and outrun people, out hustle people. And then we had skill sets that guys just couldn't really unleash. Like it was so many dudes that can hoop and nobody really could hoop because we wasn't really allowed to hoop.
Right.
Big stuff.
That would make a lot of sense. I mean, just watching the game, y'all really could have blown Illinois out. And I think the only thing that kept them in that game, because that big boy got in foul trouble dealing with Sean, and Darren Williams had a solid game, but the name I forgot how crazy he went in the championship game with Luther Head. In the second half, went dumb, and I was like, bro, I think he hit like 5-6 threes in the second half alone. He was only 2 for 9 at halftime. Came out, so it took a superhuman effort for him to actually get them in the game, and then y'all executed for the most part at the end. But he was that one player that probably could have stole it from y'all, but it didn't happen. So I definitely see, obviously, what you're saying as far as the interchangeable parts. But even just kind of tying all that back in, do you think, the fact that y'all had too much talent to let people hoop, or was it another example of what we talked about, the whole buck breaking thing and making people fall in line?
I think, because that's a good question because I was able to still play my game despite the fact that he was trying to still break me, because it was like I understood how to break the offense and get my buckets. And I knew how to do that without looking selfish. And so when you can put up 25, 26 without looking selfish, and you look up at the scoreboard, Shy went off tonight, and it's just a subtle, hit a three here, hit a three there. Coaches who love systematic offenses and systematic programs, they don't like leading scorers. They don't like nobody leading out because they want all the credit. That's what the Kansas whole MO was about. That's what the Carolina whole MO was about. Team, team, team. So if there was ever any one player that started to stand out, it wouldn't look like a team anymore. And so that dynamic was always something that Roy Williams kept up, because at Kansas there was no definite star on any team. Even when Paul Pierce was there, he said some shit. He done been on record, well, not on record, but he done said some shit to me that's on some me, Paul Pierce, and Drew Gooden are the hardest motherfuckers to coach in the world, because we just hoopers. We know how to hoop. We don't need you to, because he's not a hooper. He never hooped. He don't know how to play. He's not a real coach. He's just a director. He's a dictator. He like to put shit in. So when we hoopers know what we're doing and we start putting things in the way it's supposed to be, the coaches can't stand that. They can't stand it.
Adding to that, do you think that's the reason why players from your team, from that era, that championship team, didn't really say thrive in the NBA as most would think that they would have? Because I mean, you got like Brandon said, you guys had a lot of talent coming off that team. Many would think that, okay, somebody gonna become a superstar or all-star, at the next level. But I mean, no disrespect to them, but nobody did. So I'm curious to hear more on maybe that's the reason why, because these coaches are just stuck in their ways and just kind of wanting to direct and just, again, continuing to keep things on a chain.
Yeah, man, you got to look at all the players who came out of college and they were there longer than 2 years. They came into the NBA and they became position players, every single one of them, and they adapted to that role. And that role became something of a longevity role where you can literally put all your dollars in this bag and say, I'm going to play on this team and this team and this team for at least 10 years just because I know how to play this position. But this could be people who we thought in college was those guys that was going to be the guy and stayed in his position. But then there's those guys who got that talent, and that once they get in the open court and they allow to really do their thing, they're going to be a monster. But then they get stopped by that one coach in the league that don't believe in their talent.
Yeah.
Don't like their attitude, don't like their mama, don't like the car that they daddy rocking. Something going to happen, and it's going to be a friction where this kid is going to be stopped because it ain't got nothing to do with his talent.